Sir, the cradle band just woke up, after 12,000 years. Then hope to every star that it's nothing.
The signal began on the moon.
The last time the cradle vault flickered awake, an empire died screaming. This time, someone was whistling. Dale Kowalczyk did not know that. Dale did not know much, honestly, beyond his checklist. Replace a busted relay on Lunar Relay Station 4, log the serial number, and be back at the hab before his coffee went cold. He'd pulled the EVA shift because Ranjit had a stomach bug, and Dale figured a walk on the far side of the moon beat another Tuesday of paperwork. That's when he found the door. It wasn't on any survey map, just a slab of gray metal, half buried in regolith, sitting exactly where his rover path needed to go. Dale radioed it in as some kind of hatch, probably old Soviet junk, which was, strictly speaking, off by several thousand years and one entire species. Nobody at Houston corrected him, mostly because nobody at Houston knew any better either. Dale, a man who had once fixed a garage door with a hammer and a strongly worded opinion, decided the smart move was to pry the thing open rather than reroute 600 meters around it. He wedged his crowbar into a seam that hadn't seen light in 12,000 years, leaned his whole body weight into it, and grunted, "Come on, you son of a..." The seam gave. Somewhere beneath the sea of tranquility's quieter, uglier cousin, something exhaled. 6 light-years away, aboard the Corvette Dominion listening post Hollow Bell, Sensor Officer Threll Vantak watched a dead frequency wake up. The cradle band, silent since before his grandmother's grandmother was hatched, spiked once, twice, then settled into a slow, steady pulse. Threll checked his instruments 3 times, because instruments that reported this were usually broken, and instruments that reported this and weren't broken were worse. He filed a Tier 4 anomaly report and told himself it was probably debris. It was not probably debris. Why did the pulse match a heartbeat? Xenoarchivist Dr. Yeshu Omelin was pulled out of a budget meeting for the anomaly, which she resented right up until she saw the waveform. She'd spent 11 years cataloging pre-collapse relics and had never once seen the cradle band do anything but sleep. She ran it against the old records, the ones sealed under Dominion law, the ones her mentor made her swear never to discuss casually, and went very quiet. "This isn't debris," she told the room. "This is a door opening." Someone asked, reasonably, a door to what? Yeshu didn't answer. She wasn't sure the answer was allowed to leave the room. Fleet Commander Draza Ilkoth had inherited the Cradle Vault contingency file the way one inherits a house with a locked basement, dutifully and without curiosity. Now she was reading it at 0300, and it was worse than the ghost stories. The file said the vault had ended the Second Reclamation War in 11 minutes. It said the species that built it had not needed a fleet, a strategy, or a warning. It said, in language 2 translation layers old, that the vault should never, under any circumstance, be disturbed by anyone who did not know exactly what they were doing. Draza stared at the sensor logs. Whoever was doing this did not appear to know anything at all. Her adjutant, hovering by the door with the particular stillness of someone hoping not to be noticed, finally spoke. "Should we scramble a response fleet, Commander?" Draza almost laughed. The contingency file had a section for that too, 3 words long, underlined twice by whoever wrote it 100 generations ago. Do not bother. She didn't share that part yet. She wasn't sure the room could take it. The Hollow Bell scans finally resolved an image, and Threll almost wished they hadn't. 1 biological signature. 1. Standing in the vault's outer chamber, entirely unarmored, unaccompanied, and the sensor log genuinely struggled to categorize this, humming. No support fleet. No escort. No apparent awareness that the vault's inner seal had a kill radius that used to be measured in star systems. "Send the report up the chain," Threll said, and his voice cracked on chain. Someone needs to see this before he touches anything else. He'd already touched something else. That was rather the problem. By the time the report reached 3 levels up, someone had appended a note asking whether the human might be a scout for a larger force, hidden somewhere nearby, waiting for a signal. There was no larger force. There was a rover, a toolbox, and roughly 40 minutes left on a coffee thermos, and somehow that was so much worse. Yeshu pulled the species record the moment human came back from translation and felt something cold settle behind her ribs. Humans weren't in the current threat index. Humans were in the old index, the one predating the Dominion's founding charter, filed under a heading that translated roughly to do not provoke, do not approach, do not assume they understand what they're doing because they frequently do not, and it has never mattered. The vault, her notes now suggested, hadn't been built to imprison an ancient monster. It had been built by one species for one species and left running on autopilot for 12 millennia waiting for someone to come home. Yeshu scrolled further and found the footnote every translator before her had apparently chosen to skip. The vault's builders hadn't left guards, codes, or warnings for their own kind, because their own kind had never needed any. The only security measure on file was the door itself, and the door had been rated, in the builder's own casual phrasing, as probably fine against everyone else, honestly. Draza watched the final Dominion probe feed, grainy, half-static, of the human crouched in the vault's core, wrenching open a panel with a tool that looked, impossibly, like a length of bent metal pipe. Behind him, dormant systems that had not drawn power since before the Dominion learned interstellar flight were spinning back up in sequence, clean and synchronized, like they'd never really been asleep at all. He's not attacking it, Draza said slowly, understanding arriving like a physical blow. He thinks it's broken. He's fixing it. Somewhere in that thought was the entire history of why nobody had ever won a war against these people. Dale had no idea any of this was happening. What Dale knew was that the panel behind the door had a rat's nest of cabling that reminded him a lot of his uncle's fuse box, and that fuse boxes generally worked fine once you found the thing that had tripped. He found it, a switch the size of a dinner plate, stiff with age, and threw it back into position with a satisfying chunk. Lights he couldn't explain hummed on all along the chamber walls, ancient and patient, like a system saying finally. Huh, Dale said to nobody. That was probably important. He radioed it in anyway because he was, if nothing else, a professional. Hey, Houston, found some kind of old installation out past Relay 4. Looked busted, gave it a whack, seems to be running now. Might want to send someone smarter than me to check it out. Anyway, my coffee's ice cold, so I'm heading back. Aboard the Hollow Bell, Threll watched 12,000 years of quarantine protocol dissolve into a single, unbearable data point. The human had left. He had simply walked away, whistling, according to the audio. Draza's next transmission to Dominion High Command was 4 words long, and every one of them cost her something. Recommend full sector withdrawal. When Command asked for a reason, she stared at the feed of an unarmored man strolling back to a small metal box with a crowbar over his shoulder and typed, "Species reactivated a planet-scale deterrent using a tool meant for garage doors. Believed to be unaware. Recommend we not be here," when he tells his friends. Yeshu, for her part, added exactly 1 line to the official record before quietly requesting reassignment to literally anywhere else. Humans do not need to know what they're doing to be extremely good at it. Dale got his coffee. It was, in fact, ice cold. He drank it anyway and put in for hazard pay, on the grounds that the door had been kind of heavy. 6 light-years out, an entire empire began quietly rewriting its evacuation drills around the phrase humming. 3 sectors over, on a HAB module orbit chart nobody important reads, a single new line appeared under Lunar Relay Station 4. Anomaly resolved, minor repairs performed, technician requests time and a half.